Alrighty everyone, welcome to the what will soon be obviously appropriately day 13 video. I have gone out to 3 days out since the last video. Been doing a few little bits and pieces and stuff. We've got an update for me screwing up, pretty much. So here's the house as it stands. You can already see on the bottom of the door there we got water issues, so let's go look at that and then I'll look into the positive stuff. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I can tell you that wet cedar actually smells even nicer than cut cedar, so that's a minor upside here. As you can see, we got leaks. Now, these are my fault. First one and the obvious one. Top of the eave here, up in here, there's still a little bit of a crack, which I thought I sealed reasonably well with paint, as I did all the other sections that are leaking. I did not. And I figured, she'll be right, we'll just sort it out as we go along. It's the middle of summer. Well, apparently the middle of summer decided to just have a bit of a rainstorm on and off for Tuesday. At the end of Monday and all of Tuesday and last night really badly. It's Wednesday now. It got pretty torrential, so we had a bit of a trial by fire on a structure that isn't really quite complete yet. So these cedar doors are internal doors, and one of the things I've got is this TNG paneling on them. And if we go have a look here in the light, TNG comes down and meets the frame there. So what I should have done, but didn't because I was just being a bit like, it'll be okay, paint will do it kind of thing, was seal that up. So I need to seal these cracks, seal along here, seal along here, seal here in the wall-to-wall connection, particularly seal all these window edges. Up here we've got a couple of weak cracks. That one isn't leaking, but it might do, so that all needs bogging and sealing. Bog this entire crack here and this entire section down here a little better, and instead of just bogging the bottom here, we're going to silicone seal along that. So you can see there's still water standing on that edge, and the problem with that is the water comes down the wall. You can see all the sort of dirt sort of tracking it a bit here because dust is blown in and then been run down by the rain, and the water pulls on this edge and then gets in under our door, well, our wall edge. Now I thought that paint would just seal that little wee crack quite neatly, but it didn't. And also, even if it did, water standing there is eventually going to get in. And we've got the same thing happening on the top of our eaves up here. I don't know if you can see what I can't see. There's a crack up there. So, a bit of bogging, a lot of silicone sealing to do. Fortunately, the weather's improved. Hopefully it stays sunny all day today, so we can get this area dried out. So basically what was happening, you can actually see where it's tracking in the wood there. There's a great thing with cedar, actually it shows you where all the water's coming from and how it's moving. So up the top there, I'm not sure if you can actually see that. I'll just put my light on it. Hang on. There we go. So in that top corner to the left of where I'm pointing, just above the lintel there's a crack on the outside wall. It's allowing smaller amounts of water to pull and then come in under that crack and then sit on top of the door and then run down this edge and get into there. And then it's just slowly wicking its way through everything because cedar's a bit like a sponge. And these windows, the space by the windows on the other hand, you can see it's happening there too. That's wicking upwards and then from the top of that window section there as well. But mainly what's happening is right there in that crack, that corner, that water's pooling on the bottom of the corner and then just flowing its way through the window joint into the cedar wood and then expanding out, and then obviously as it's there, that's coming in through the TNG and then wicking its way back up through the wood. All of this has resulted in water flowing down inside and around that door and dropping down to here, and that's the state of things now. So what I did the other night once I realised what was going on was I just rammed some bits of cardboard up against that wall in the bottom there to just soak up some of the water flowing in. They were basically just floppy bits of mush this morning, so quite a bit came in. As you can see, some of the water's whipped up the inside of my bookcase there, which is a bit more of a problem, and gotten in underneath it, and thus yeah, whipped up through the side of it. So you can see a slight difference in the colour of the laminate on the side of the bookcase, because that's lifting now and a bit buggered. So all is not and positives. We installed a desk. I started working. I'm working on a cat. Installed a light there. The little metal bits that I've installed it with were actually the stands for the back of the solar panels. I'm making little permanent mounts for the roof when I put them in, so I didn't need them. So the zip ties and so forth. Eventually that cable will zip tie against the wall over to our power section over here. But we'll be doing that after repaint, painting the interior. So haven't done that yet. And we also installed another light over here. You know, it's a bit of a bodgy setup. It's practical. We just put a few screws in, hold a bit of stuff against the wall there. So those two lights were really good for my desk area, and I've got two left for eventually putting over here. One in the kitchen area, and in the theoretically maybe shower or probably just storage area. I'm not really sure. Also got some minor leaks against the floor there. You can see to the right of that vertical bit of framing. What I did to sort of limit the flooding here was put some mats down and stuff, so they just sort of held it near the door. It just flowed out under the door to some degree, but a lot of it pulled, as you can see. And we just sort of brushed that out a few times during the night. Got a couple of other little small bits of leakage there. I've had a look on the outside. There's no cracks or anything that coming from, so my nearest best estimate, because it's happening all along that edge there, is that water's, you know, dripping down the side of the house, because I have no eaves or anything yet, which is fine. That's sort of what I designed for. But as it beads on the bottom edge of the structure, it's absorbing up into the ply a little bit, I guess. So a couple of people have suggested I put a breathable membrane under the house to prevent damp coming up. I wasn't too worried about it, because this is structural ply. It can actually take a bit of damp like this and stuff and then just dry out. But if it's going to wick in that far, that might be a bit more of an issue. So I may put bottom edge framing in down there where I haven't got it yet, because the cool thing is my main roof, all this area here and stuff, all the stuff that's sealed up the way I spoke about in another video, where all the cracks have got one of these big bits of framing behind them. Any water that gets in causes the wood to swell, seals the crack. Everywhere I've done that, we don't have a problem. Everywhere I haven't done that, we are starting to have some minor issues. So yeah, that needs a little bit more thought, because that's actually coming up through the wood, so I can't just sort of seal the gap there. I need to actually put something under the thing. A lot of this will be resolved by having eaves all around the edge of the house, so that water runs off of them, beads on them and runs off of them instead of running down the actual wall. But we'll see how we go. Obviously our main issues are over here at the moment, so once this is dried out today, hopefully I'm just going to go find out if Bunnings is open today, because it is still sort of Christmas hours, and try and get in there and get a caulking gun and some silicone sealant and get these outside walls done. Now, all is not lost. One of the cool things about using the cedar and just other wood here, but particularly the cedar, because it's quite, you know, it's got the consistency of balsa wood, it's very sponge-like and whatnot. There was this old technique back in the day. Some people still use it. I've read a couple of books on building boats where people still use this, where you built an old clinker boat, like an old dinghy, you know, planked panels and stuff and overlap. And what you would do is you build the boat, and, you know, pretty much right as you can, and then you deliberately sink it for quite some time, like a few days, a week or something like that, in water. Then you pull it out of the water, you let it dry a little bit, like down to sort of touch dry, I guess. I mean, you know, if you wanted to actually do this, you should sort of, you know, go look it up and see how to do it properly. And then you paint and seal the boat, or, you know, back in the day, they used to cover them in tar or bitumen or whatever and stuff like this. Now, the point in that is, when wood gets wet, it expands. And this creates a sort of a gap sealing effect and tightens up all your joints and stuff. And if you then repaint it, it sort of stays at that size. So that's basically what we're hoping to some degree will happen with the cedar and stuff like that, you know, especially in the TNG in here and stuff like that where water's worked. And the problem is, now we've got water in there, it has started sponging it up and stuff, and it's getting around the paint and whatnot. So I'm not going to rely on that effect, or I just let this keep happening until it's stopped, basically. My concern is how much expansion we're going to get. with too much expansion, I could theoretically crack my glass from overpressure in the wall frame there, or seriously bow out and muck with my walls and shit. So we're just going to have to sort of see what happens. Hopefully it's a nice hot day today and this sort of just dries out pretty rapidly. And we'll just keep tracking it and having a look at it and seeing how we go. So there you go, Murphy's Law caught up with us finally. We've got some minor problems. Fortunately, none of this is in the sleep area, it's just in the work area, and it's only just started to leak onto the top edge, or back edge of my desk there. There's gaps in the edge of the desk where it meets the wall anyway, because the way I framed all that in. So it's no danger to work, or to me. My sleep area is back up over here, nice and cozy. We are finding with that insulation that working in here at night, it does cool down with the door shut. We go to within about 2 degrees of ambient external air temperature. So another thing we probably want to start looking at is insulation. I could probably just use, I've been offered some polystyrene foam insulation that I could pack around all these walls. I was thinking I'd need to pack it onto the outside, but now that I'm living in here, I've realised that it's actually reasonably spacious, and I can totally tolerate having a few inches less space on either side and on the ceiling and things like that. Just to insulate more, which will mean my heat being in here will, my body heat will warm the place up a little more effectively. We'll also pretty shortly start looking into making a little alcohol stove, or getting more candles. My cousin gave me one for Christmas, just to warm the space up a little bit at night. Ventilation wise, I still haven't cut vent holes, and we're doing fine. I wake up in the morning and it smells okay in here and stuff. It's not damp, despite all of this crap going on the other night. There's no condensation running anywhere else or anything like that, and it did get quite cold last night. I woke up no condensation on the windows either, which is the one place it would collect if we were going to get it. So all in all, we're doing pretty well. I've got some minor issues which I will attend to as soon as I'm able. Once things dry out a bit more outside, I can at least start doing some bogging, get the major cracks sealed up, and create, I'll probably do it in silicone, but I need to create a sort of a dished bead along this edge here, so the water runs down and then it runs straight off the side over the bead instead of getting it under the door cracks there. You can actually see the crack here where it's been getting in underneath. So before it really got floody and stuff, and it first initially started happening, I could kind of see small patches where this was initially coming. It started with this one running down this corner from the top, but there I half expected that. A little bit from the window here, a little bit in the TNG down there, and a lot of pooling down here in this corner, and along that way there, and it just sort of spread this way out. So a lot of what we're seeing soak wise in here is probably actually just soak up from the floor. I would say, but I'm gonna gap seal a bunch of stuff anyway. And then down the bottom there, where we can see that, what's happening is on the outside here, I would guess water's pooling on this, and it's getting in through these TNG gaps there, and then running into this one and running into this one, because once water runs down here and down and hits one of these cracks, gets in the crack and then runs along there. Oh dear, not so good. That's alright, these are all things we can fix and work with. Like I said, I'm just going to silicone those all up and then repaint. And just try and get this surface just uniform and flat looking as much as humanly possible, because that will be, everywhere where I can see a disturbance in the surface, like up here or whatever, is a place where water can potentially bead and get in. Except it's not over here. Now here's the difference on this one. See, water's going to come down here and it's going to hit the slope and then run along that and then bead and then just run straight down there, run down straight down here, stuff like that. The problem is when it hits this window, it runs to here and it goes and sits in there. You can actually feel the water in there now. So it's not actually getting in through the paint, it's just sitting against the glass and then dropping in against the glass to wood gap. You can actually see it from the side, you can actually see all the water on the other side of the glass there. So yeah, shit happens. That's okay, we can work on it. This is the first time I've had any major failure issue, really, with this process. Floor I'm not worried about at all. It's structural H 3.2 ply. I could do this all day every day and heat it up again and dry it out and then do it again and again and again quite a few times before we started, splitting up that wood too much or bowing the floor heaps or anything like that. So my main concerns at the moment are initially to get my internal not leaking and this wall sorted out. Longer term, we are going to worry about putting something under the under the floor. But I talked to a builder guy the other day about what I'd use to create that wall frame, that floor frame and the ply, and it is all structural 3.2 yada yada outdoor treated wood. This means that it does need some sort of membrane or something to back it up and sort it out. Oh, we can see our batteries, by the way, up there. That little light indicator basically tells us that with running several hours worth of lights and whatnot the other night, I've still got about 85% in my battery, 95% even. So yeah, not running the solar yet. We just charged the batteries up inside, or went to, and found that they'd actually been float charged when I was bought them. So yeah, we were doing some tests on how long the battery lasts with no recharge at the moment before we actually install the solar, which I'd like to do in better weather. At the same time, we will install the vents, which I talked about already, putting a vented thing in the bottom section of the bookshelf, and then one way high up there. The high one up there will allow me a little bit of space to poke my cables from my solar back through the wall. We will be doing that in such a way as to consider rain and where it's going to run and all that kind of stuff, so that we don't wick water in along our cables and so forth. Anyway, back to the wood. Basically, this structure will last for months, if not years, without any sort of sealing. Actually, it would gradually get damper and damper and more moldy and gross on the outside and stuff. Obviously, the paint we've got on is going to stop that happening now. But yeah, this kind of wood will survive a lot of abuse outdoors. That's what it's designed for. It's mainly used for fencing and stuff. So if you look over here, that's what happens after years and years and years of unsealed timber just sitting there. It starts growing algae and stuff like that. But as you can see, that's still solid fence. So the bottom of my floor, after a few years of hammering away and stuff with no breathable membrane under it, no waterproofing against the ground, there is a bit of gap off the ground there. You actually sort of see the difference, because dry ground, wet ground's where the end of my house ends, and dry ground's under the house. It will start absorbing water and stuff like that. After years and years and years, I might have to, next time I disassemble this and take it apart, we'll be able to really track that. Maybe replace the frame for the floor or whatever, but it's very, very cheap and easy to create, so I'm not really too worried about that. But it's one of those things. Next time I put this thing in place on a new section somewhere, we will tack on a breathable membrane to the bottom of the floor frame and get that all sealed up and set up so that there's no further damage, if there is any already. But I'm okay with that. And with the ply, other people have mentioned the ply, it's not marine grade. After a few years it's going to split, it's going to bow, it's going to do this. Yes it is, absolutely. But I've built something on a sort of an experimental level here. See how long it lasts, what needs replacing, when it does, what goes wrong, and what we do about it. That's the kind of thing we're going to be working through here. But I'm satisfied that this structure would last in its current state with no further repair, not even the leaks and stuff. This will happily last for quite a few years, as it is. Normally when you build a house, you build it to last 50 years or whatever. This is a mobile and therefore semi-temporary kind of structure by comparison, but I fully expect to be using it and or having it in a saleable condition once it is actually complete, for a good 5 to 10 years. So I'm happy that it'll do that and manage that, which is good. If we have major issues down here with something like where this water's leaked in and worked up through the bookcase, there's plenty of foot space in there that I only put my feet in, so I'll quite happily just tack in more doublers of wood to re-strengthen the bookcase and re-brace it. Can do that, no problems at all. As long as we keep using screws and stuff, everything can be disassembled and modified as we go. So it's not really too much of an issue. But again, really, really fortunate that I didn't put my carpet in or do interior painting yet. If I'd have done interior painting, it would have been very much harder to track a lot of this leaking, especially down here where it's most critical and at its worst. And I would have buggered a sheet in my carpet, because it's rubber backed and stuff, but and it's synthetic, so I probably wouldn't have buggered it. I would have had to pull it out and dry it, and it would have been a bit of a bummer. So yeah, I'm going to get some supplies as well in terms of sponges or whatever to ram up against that wall and anywhere else this happens again, so that we don't get quite so much spread across the floor with the leakage when it occurs. But it's been really interesting just sort of seeing, you know, my friend warned me about this. He's like, bro, seriously, anywhere you got a crack, you really need to bog that up, bro, because like water will just pull and then track in, and it's evil, and you wouldn't believe how good it is at doing it. And I'm like, nah, like, surely not. And now I've witnessed this to occur, and my video's gone all blurry and won't refocus. Oops. So yeah, we learned our lesson. All those people who have made suggestions about things like this, I'm not being that stubborn. I am listening to you. I'm just sort of working with a budget and what I can do in terms of labour and difficulty. For instance, say putting a breathable membrane under this floor, that's at least a 3-person job now, because we've got to lift an edge, shove the membrane under, lift the other edge, shove the membrane under, and do all this kind of stuff to get it in there. It's not impossible, but it's just not something I could do right now. And I have run out of construction budget money, although fortunately my cousin Kev chucked me a Bunnings gift card the other day, so I'm going to have enough money to go and get a caulking gun and some silicone to address our immediate issues here. And I'll also look at possibly a small gas cooker thing or whatever for cooking. It'd be nice to be able to cook a cup of tea, brew a cup of tea in here at night and stuff. Although obviously I will be putting extensive venting in before I use a gas cooker in this tiny little space. I must admit though, ventilation wise, popping the door when it gets too warm is absolutely sufficient at the moment. So I'm really surprised and quite happy about that. It makes a huge difference. You leave the door shut for a couple of hours on a hot day, you come in here, it's a frickin' oven, you pop it open for 5 minutes and it's not an oven anymore. So I may even end up mainly using the door for ventilation, and getting a mesh screen to cover the front side so I can leave it open in summer without getting bugs in here while I'm working. Anyway, that's a day 13 update with all of the 13-ish, oh god, so unlucky things happening. That's a complete myth. I'm a scientific thinker. I don't do unlucky numbers, but the irony isn't lost on me. Yeah, next time you hear from me, I imagine we'll have this fixed and hopefully we'll have started painting. But hey, we did get our desk in and some lights installed, so you know, and there's some stuff done. Yeah, still happy as a clam so far. Alrighty, I'll leave you to it.